Hey, my name is Max. I'm a IT lackey by day, weekend rock star by night, and this is the Full Spin Club. And today we are discussing the seminal classic Bleed American by Gimmie World.
All right, and a begrudging welcome to the club from me.
I don't know why, man. I've been just trying to scratch the door down to get in here for a while now.
I know, you've bugged me for far too long, and here it is. Are
Finally
you happy?
worn you down.
Anyway, welcome to the club.
Software, sugar on the asphalt. It just takes some time, little girl. Don't go, tell me now. I was spinning free, you gave us some place to go. If you don't know why you say so. Cheating gets it faster.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Full Spin Club. My name is David Stewart, and I am the leader of this online album listening club. And today, like he said, we're listening to Bleed American by Gimmie World. For those that are new to the show, there are three main segments to this show. There is On a Pedestal, which is where Max and I brought three things that we liked about the record when we gave it our most recent listen. There is On a Spit, which is lowlights that we thought were a little weak throughout the record. And On a Turntable, which is where I sent questions to Max ahead of time to kind of dig a little deeper into his life and use the album as a backdrop for better conversation. There is a record scratch element to this episode. There is one record scratch element because I came up with one that's going to take us a while. And so I decided to forego the traditional two, like the Daily Double and Jeopardy, because I want to mess with Max.
Hell yeah.
So that's also why On a Spit is just lowlights and not roasts, because the minigame is strictly me writing roasts that are going to make Max angry.
I can't wait.
And so
Can't wait.
Without further ado, let's get into it. Max, I like to start my episodes by asking my guests to summarize their most recent listen of the record in one word. Do you have a word for that?
Most recent listen. I don't know. I've been doing a whole bunch of listening to this record again in preparation for this. So the most recent one was like in the background while I was writing emails. But
God. Well, all right. So most recent, because like I only say most recent because some people come on the record with like favorite albums of theirs. You're, part of that group.
Yeah.
So by most recent listen, I guess most recent dive. Like not even as recent as you're talking about. Like so, when you were listening for the episode,
okay,
give me a one-word descriptor of Bleed American.
One word.
Well, while we're
Respectable.
waiting,
Respectable. I was trying to think like not cringy. Like you go back and listen to a lot of those early, like late 90s, early aughts emo records, and you're kind of like, dang,
yeah.
I don't know necessarily that I can blast this as loudly as I'd like to.
Yeah.
You can still blast Gimmie World as loudly as you'd like to.
Right.
You don't
because
have to be ashamed or worried about that.
Because, which brings me to my word, safe. because
There.
Because it is unchallenging. Which is only going to start the process of me absolutely tearing apart your favorite record.
Yeah. I mean, not all-time favorite, but definitely of my youth, top 20 for sure.
Right. Top 20 of your youth. And so which I don't normally play the villain on this show.
But in my life you do.
I'm usually a champion of whatever we're talking about. Because I've had people on the show that I give them albums I know they're going to hate.
Yeah.
Or they bring records that they love, and I'm like, I want to support your love of this record. But because of our sort of big brother, little brother dynamic, I don't respect you. And so when you bring me an album, my go-to was to just absolutely come up with the most annoying shit about it.
Yeah.
So that I can just tear it down for you. So
right.
now I'm the antagonist of this show, which is kind of a fun little role for me to slip in.
Yeah.
So
To prepare for this, I went and reread the original Pitchfork review of this record when it came out. Yeah. And they're just so needlessly conniving and rude and just belittling of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which isn't totally undeserving because like you said, it is it's not an especially challenging record, but also not being challenging doesn't mean it's a bad thing, or that it's not an enjoyable listen, or that it's not worthy of praise.
Exactly.
But either way,
maybe not a praise chorus though.
Ooh, don't reward that.
If you guys are
downvote.
Well,
Thumbs
if you guys
down
like
on the
that,
video.
go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers.
Go ahead and smash that thumbs down button.
Hey now. If you like me making bad jokes and making him sad, hit the like button.
You can like that.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of listening to full albums. I'm so grateful you're here. Please like, comment, subscribe. But in a second, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor today, Worse Help. Worse Help is a platform for struggling artists to get on and get terrible mental health advice. It is the opposite of other telehelp therapy sessions where you, the struggling artist, are going to be put in a terrible headspace because what makes great art? Being mentally ill. We're so grateful to have them as a sponsor because I know as an artist myself that when I'm in a terrible headspace, I make my best work. So please go to the link in the description, go get you some terrible mental health advice, and go start making your best work. You will get 25% off your first session, and thank you so much again for tuning in. Let's get back to the show. That brings us to our first segment, On a Pedestal. We're going to talk about the things we love about this record, and then I'm going to preemptively let you know that the record scratch is coming after this. So I'm going to build you up and then tear you down. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah. So,
Max, what is your first pedestal moment, song, lyric, anything about this record that you want to praise?
So first thing that I want to praise is just like how wonderfully concise it is.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
the preceding album, Clarity, is like this sprawling, atmospheric, like not totally genre defining, but definitely like supporting the creation of the emo genre.
Sure.
It's a classic, and this one is just like meat and potatoes, like 3.5, 4-minute songs. Intro, verse, chorus, bridge,
right.
end chorus. Like it's comfort food in album form.
That's fair. Yeah.
And it's like there's never really there's no way that a mood isn't improved listening to this album. It's an immediate pick me up. Unreal, dude. I know you're just saying that to piss me off, but it's true. Nobody puts on Bleed American and listens to it the whole way through and doesn't feel better afterwards. No one does.
Now, all right. No, I hear you because my first pedestal moment is the title track, Bleed American. It is the opener of the album. It's so good.
Yeah.
And of course you feel good listening to that song. That song rules.
Yeah.
And like, so that song is worthy of all the praise. But I have some pushback on like finishing the album being like, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think the track listing is kind of odd.
But
I'm saving that for the next the next segment.
All right.
So yes, I agree. It is comfort food.
Yeah.
But that only adds to my unchallenging and safe argument that I started this podcast with.
Which, fair. I feel like that's going to be a recurring theme of like, this is so good, but it's not really like, it doesn't push you. Like the lyrics aren't groundbreaking.
Right.
There's no incredible like tapping or anything that like you're going to run out and try and learn. Though if you were a guitar player in the early 2000s like I was, like you're definitely going to sit down and try and figure out that solo to the middle.
Oh, sure.
And that first part's going to trip you up for several months until you get it down.
Right.
I may have just finally gotten it all the way through about a couple months here.
Yeah, it's like the most shreddy Jason Atkins ever got.
Yeah, Jim Adkins, but we'll let that slide. Jim Adkins,
all right, well,
lead singer,
Gimmie,
songwriter.
Because of Gimmie,
yeah,
that is crazy.
Embarrassing, dude. This is your podcast.
Isn't Gimmie short for James?
Jim's short for James?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just, I mean, it could be. I didn't do a whole
it's not short for
deep
Jimothy.
dive on his specific bio.
Well, I don't know. Maybe study up next time. Stop disappointing me.
Frustrating already.
What's your? We talked about like, Bleed American was my first pedestal because it is the most fun opener to a record that I've listened to in a while.
Yeah.
Like I mean, not including Kendrick Lamar, like, because the opening, cause the opening to Pimp a Butterfly rules.
It does.
But like again, there's like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
But as far as like, as much as I make fun of this record for being, you know, safe and unchallenging, that song rocks a lot.
Yeah.
To the point where like I don't like the lyrics don't even make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, I had to go back and really listen through for like the themes and kind of get a better sense. Because like upon purchasing the album back in 2001, like it was all vibes. It was all just like killer rhythms and killer melodies and catchy hooks and singing along and not totally thinking about what they were singing about. And like, again, it's simple. I think, and this is probably gets into another pedestal thing, but like Jim Adkins and the band as a whole are so good at crafting poppy, catchy songs that I think they prioritize song.
Like
They
mood over meaning.
They prioritize like the quality and presentation of the song over like the I don't know, the meaning or the getting into like really deep I don't know.
Yeah, like mood over meaning.
Yeah.
Like they don't like it's not I'm not listening to a Tool record where like I am going to go decipher the
you don't need
Rosetta Stone like
you don't got to sit down and pull out the notebook and like make note of all the clues and the lyrics. Like they're very basic. They're there to serve as like the garnish on the song.
Right.
They're not the song itself is the meal, and like the lyrics are just designed to like get the melody across as opposed to melody the reverse.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I know there are other acts out there like that, but I always gravitate towards the music that, and this is like probably like a fundamental difference between us is that like I gravitate towards lyrics, and meaning, not necessarily like composition. Yeah. And I think as a guitar player yourself, musician, if that's like you want to use a kinder descriptor,
that's a musician is definitely more respectable. Like guitar players are just garbage.
But that's like whenever we talk about like albums like in the car or something like that, you always talk about how like the production, the guitar tones, the sound, and I'm like, he's saying cool stuff. Yeah. And so of course I don't pick up on that, like, because like what does soft swear sugar on the asphalt mean?
I don't know, but it sounds cool as hell, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it is just it's vibes. It's all vibes. But so that's my first pedestal is, and I went by song like this time around. So because like I expect you to carry the episode for as far as like talking about the more intricate things.
Yeah. Well, I would say, and I thought about this a lot, like as far as song order goes, like track listing goes, Bleed American has an almost perfect front half. Yeah. Like Bleed American into a praise chorus into the middle and Sweetness are near perfect pop rock punk
bangers.
Songs. Like the only slight trip up is Your House. Yep. And I understand why they put it there because like it's like overindulging in a pull away Twizzlers like someone may have done last night. No. Wasn't me. Someone may have done last night.
First of all, I can't believe you brought that up. I can't believe you brought up the pull and peel Twizzlers. They were delicious.
If you were able to pace yourself and have like a little breather in there, that's what your house is. Your house is a little breather. Your house is switching it up for something, for a salty treat instead.
I had pretzels.
Yeah.
They were
so that's your house. Like Bleed American, praise chorus, the middle, Sweetness, all sugar. And then Your House is this salt to kind of like offset it and allow you to keep consuming the album.
Sure. But what if the textural ride that the Twizzlers take you on are so great that you don't really want to break? You're just doing it.
Like I even made another playlist and I put I removed Your House and just put the middle into Sweetness, and it's awesome. Yeah. But like as far as flow for the album overall, it just gets super soft and acoustic for the second half. So having that change up a little bit and putting Sweetness, just one track back.
Yeah.
I think the overall flow of the album is better in that way.
It's fair. It gives you a little taster of what's to come.
Yeah.
Before completely taking it away from you.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
But man, those first, like, incredible rock songs, incredibly well made, well arranged, well written rock songs.
Yeah.
Are those first 4.
Is that like your second pedestal, or like just talking about the arrangement of those
I mean,
songs, or like do you have a specific thing in mind?
So let's see. So my second thing on the pedestal, which ties into this, was just like minimal but well thought out arrangements. There's not a whole lot of experimentation as far as like with Clarity. There was more like strings and piano and kind of like electronic manipulation and stuff. There's not as much of that on this record. It's a lot of songs that translate very easily to campfire settings. Like you have one guy, an acoustic guitar, and you can play 95% of this record.
You could, but if anyone played the middle on an acoustic guitar at a party I was at, I would just leave. I would absolutely leave. Because do you know how insufferable that song's going to become in an acoustic setting?
Well, so I went to that party, 20 years ago, and it was a sick time. Like now it would be insufferable. But at the time it was awesome. I mean, honestly, like even today, the hour,
if we
depending on how much you've partied.
No, if we leave this room and you go get your acoustic
That's what I'm
guitar
saying.
and start playing,
not right
the
now,
middle,
but like 11 p.m. tonight, and I bust out the acoustic,
I'm gonna
tell
vomit.
you what, no, you won't.
We'll vomit.
You'll be singing backup is what you'll be doing. You'll be so into it.
No,
Everyone is, dude.
No, I'm going to record you singing It'll Take Some Time, Little Girl, and then I'm just going to edit around and do some magic editing and get you canceled. That's what I'm going to do. These are prime cancelable years.
Pedestal point number 3. Uncancelable. Cancelable.
That's fair. Jim Adkins is, like the most straight shooting dude.
Yeah. Like there are bands that you go back and listen to. Bands that I love. Brand new, R.I.P.
Tough.
Like
tough.
The Devil and God Rage Inside Me. Love that record.
Great record.
Love it.
Yep.
It's like Office Space now though. Like I pull up to a stoplight and I turn the music down and I put the window up because I don't want people to know that I'm listening to this.
I feel similar about early Fall Out Boy because like Pete Wentz was his like most problematic.
Yeah.
And like, but I was like, this song still rocks, but Pete has really horrific takes on women.
Yeah. Which ultimately is like what it comes down to. Like we can rip on Gimmie World all day for not being challenging enough or not deviating from their core sound that much. But you never have to preface putting on Gimmie World in front of anyone.
Now,
like you put it on, maybe they judge you for the song selection or the band selection. Like, oh, Gimmie World, I've heard this a million times. Whatever. But no one's like immediately judging you as a person or your character because you put it on, which is not true for a bunch of other early aughts bands.
Yep, that's fair. It was a different time, Max.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a different time.
If anyone puts on a record and was like, what you have to understand is this was a different time, immediately things are about to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Nothing good follows. You have to understand it was a different time.
You're true. It's true. Nothing does.
Horrific stuff follows after that.
Sometime in the future, I'm sure I'll be saying that.
Oh yeah,
it was a different time.
That's what I'm gonna tell my wife when she sees this episode later. Like, what did you sit down and do this thing with David for? You have to understand it was a different time.
It was a different time. It was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Future employers that go online and Google me and find this. What the heck is this episode you did? You have to understand it was a different time.
It was a different time.
It's like a month ago. It was a different time.
Yep. Different time. Hate speech was way more acceptable a month ago than it was now.
Alarmingly acceptable. Yeah, we've learned since then. We've come a long way.
All right. My second pedestal was the song Sweetness. That is
so good.
Yeah, it's just a great song.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's also like it did the I don't know if you saw this or remember this. They did like the collage cutout stop motion music video thing that like Coldplay and Modest Mouse and everyone was doing. Like they latched on hard to like the aesthetic of the time.
Yeah.
So that one sticks out in my memory of like as far as music videos in the early 2000s go, Sweetness is that music video.
Yeah. I didn't dive deep enough to watch the music video for Sweetness. But I just know that like when the guitars come in, it's rad every time.
Oh, it's killer.
It's rad every time.
Yeah.
And like probably maybe one of the more complex syncopations.
Yeah. I mean, like they
like as far as like what his right hand is up to.
Yeah. They do some cool rhythmic stuff. I mean, like that song is a super solid rhythm. I mean, Faster later on in the track listing has super cool like breakdown guitar stuff, which is still super catchy. Like I think in that same way, like Jim Adkins and Gimmie World follow that Rivers Cuomo Weezer school of thought of where like we can get super heavy, but it's never gonna get like challenging enough, or it's always still going to stay catchy.
Right.
Like guitars will get heavier, drums will get louder, but it's still going to be a super catchy arrangement.
Yeah, like Say It Ain't So. Like I think that's like one of like Weezer's like I guess like heaviest riffs ? Unless you can think of something.
Dude, the Maladroit album is like their metal album. Like it's got like the super chunky guitars and it's got that's what am I thinking of? It's not Hash Pipes on Green. What was the big single off of Maladroit?
Oh boy,
God damn it!
I used to know it off the top of my head.
I'm glad we didn't pick that one.
Because
you can just edit this part out, so it looks like I do it immediately.
I'm gonna edit this part out for sure.
Maladroit, where are you, you son of a... Dope Nose.
Yeah, Dope Nose. Yep.
Yeah, which not one of their bigger hits, but also like one of their heavier hits. And there's a bunch of other songs like Slave and
I'm sure that aged well. Given what I know about Weezer, I'm sure that
Take Control, like super metal stuff.
Oh yeah, again another one I'm sure aged amazingly.
Yeah.
Slave and Take Control, Wizard. Rivers never had a problem with women.
See, what you need to... It was a different time, okay? What you don't understand is it was a different time. Rivers was going through something. He was at Harvard. He was alone. It was cold. I don't know.
God. All right. My third one is Get It Faster. You just mentioned it. And we've talked about this before, like outside of the podcast, but like it is the sleeper hit off of this record. It's the one no one talks about because the middle was so huge.
Yeah.
But like this one is very good. But do you have anything else before I like, because this is my last phrase is absolutely going to send us right into the record scratch. So,
okay. All right. Well, let me get this out then before you totally derail us, which is, it's dependent on context, which was, I was 14 when this record came out, which I think probably like just about the absolute right time to receive this record. The only way it would have been better if I were 16 and I could drive. Yeah. Like being able to drive yourself and listen to this record is the optimum. But I was driving 2 years later and this record was still producing hits at that time. Yeah. So it worked out. But like being 14, 15, 16, listening to a super catchy but still rocking record with themes like changing one's life for the better, good music and concerts like can literally improve your situation. That you still want to believe that if you go for a drive at night, like you'll figure it out. Like night drives will solve just about any of the issues that you're dealing with, and being content with who you are and where you're at. Like I feel like such a dad saying all this, but like that's like exactly the kind of messaging you want to hear at that age.
Yeah. Again, like there's that part of me that I liked the more challenging stuff, the stuff that like dove into this, like to the hard stuff. It wasn't like, I appreciate that stuff more, that expresses it like from a more like an angsty thing. And like Jim Adkins is just the opposite of angst. Despite being labeled as emo, this is like, has to be like the most shallow version of emo.
I mean, I feel like the definition of shallow there comes into play, but I will agreed. It is the pepperoni pizza of like big album releases of like, you're going to like it.
Yeah, but like so the phrase that comes to mind right now is "Gee Willikers." Sometimes I get sad. Like that's the level of emo we're working with here. Is gee, it sure is tough being sad.
Yeah,
that's like,
which I think is okay because you've got like there are other bands you can listen to that did the sad thing or the upset thing or like the worrisome like gonna slit my wrist things better, and like you can back in the day, you can switch the disc in the 6-disc CD player and listen to My Chem or listen to Thursday or whatever at the drive-in. You can like get that more aggressive, more expressive, like existential, depressing, whatever that you're looking for. But I also like if you're listening to Gimmie World, you already know you're not looking for that right then and there. Like this is you need to pick me up, or you need a softer constructive criticism.
gosh, a root beer would really help me feel better.
Yeah, like you need to soften the blow, and Gimmie World always softens the blow.
Or they just blow. I don't know.
I swear to God, no one thinks that.
Well,
some people think that, but they're wrong.
All right, so back to Get It Faster, because this is absolutely going to push us into the mini game for Record Scratch. Get It Faster. So I liken that song to how I feel about a lot of Taylor Swift songs.
Oh God.
Which is where it starts, where I'm like, this song sucks, and then it gets into it, and I'm like, all right, never mind, this song rules. I have that happen to me with Taylor Swift a lot, where at the beginning I'm like, okay, where's she going with this? And then it actually kind of rocks, and I'm like, all right, you're the queen of the bait and switch. Yeah, that's how Get It Faster feels to me. Yeah, that is the Taylor Swift special.
And I think that's a fascinating connection, because I would argue, as far as like comfort listening goes, and like not really needing to get super deep with things or intrinsic with the listener experience, that's Taylor Swift in a nutshell.
I don't know, like, man. Sometimes
Taylor Swift is not challenging.
She's a good
anyone.
Writer. She's a good writer.
Taylor Swift is good at what she does.
Red's a solid album that was a little more introspective than your average bear.
Look, I know you're trying to cancel me here, and I'm not going to just shit on Taylor Swift here for this whole time to get canceled. But I don't think there's a whole lot more that Taylor Swift says more effectively or more deeply than Gimmie World says. She might take a longer time saying the same thing.
All right. I was like, All Too Well, like the 10-minute version of All Too Well.
But like, I don't think she necessarily hits breaks any new ground.
Fine. But anyway, that does bring us to Record Scratch, baby. We've made it. The name of this game is called Mad Max. It's where I'm going to say troubling things to make him angry and make him defend himself against these takes.
Hell yeah.
I have what looks like 7 different takes that I'm going to run by you here, and they're all going to be insulting.
Excellent.
And this takes the place of roasts, which we normally have for On a Spit.
Okay.
So the first one I have is, The Middle is a perfect hit single for the okayest band of all time.
I mean,
sure is the middle of the road.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like 4 chords.
No, yeah.
It's in D major. Mm-hmm. There's nothing offensive about it.
Nope.
But also, like, why must we pick apart perfect things? It's a perfect pop song. It's catchy. It's quick. It's got a thoughtful guitar solo, like a guitar solo with movements to it. Like it's an extremely well thought out, well crafted pop song.
Totally.
We don't need to shit on it. We can just appreciate it for what it is.
We can.
It's enduring. It's a classic. Yeah. It deserves more respect. It got overplayed.
It got played
People
at the dentist,
got tired
which
of
is usually a good sign.
I swear to God.
It's a great sign. I have a bit about Matchbox 20, and I did it at
Don't you dare put them in the same sentence.
I did it at a club
They don't
once.
deserve that.
I did the bit at a club once, and afterwards a guy came up to me. He's like, hey, man. He's like, I grew up listening to Matchbox 20.
Wow.
And I was like, that's cool, dude. I also went to the dentist a lot as a kid. And that's how I feel about the middle. Is that I was like,
that's sick, man. I got dragged around at Target with my mom when I was a kid too.
That's the
Love
middle.
Matchbox 20.
Yeah, Rob Thomas forever.
Tell you what, man, Smooth holds up.
Yeah. Okay, so you say the unchallenging construction of the middle. That brings me to a good one here.
Yeah.
It's really cool of Gimmie Eat World to really perfect the 4/4 time signature and simple drum patterns. That's just sick of them,
dude.
Because there are some bands out there that push those boundaries, and man, it's a little rough. But really, it's just cool of Gimmie Eat World to just perfect the 4/4 time signature. That's just neat.
Yes. Gimmie World has never been acknowledged for their drumming prowess,
Wow.
or their
Four on the floor,
their
baby.
prog rock divergences. But again, there are other bands for that. Sometimes you just want pizza, and Gimmie Eat World is pizza, and it's
Eat World
always
is
good.
Little Caesars.
It's not Little Caesars.
Gimmie World is hot and ready.
It is not. Gimmie Eat World is Domino's. That's
How is that
that's a
better?
decent option now. They redid their recipe.
Gimmie Eat World is hot and ready.
The 4/4, they're so here's the other thing. They got dropped from their label right after Clarity.
Yeah.
And they self-financed, as far as I understand, most of, if not all of Bleed American.
Yeah.
Set themselves up for the arena rock echelon and continued to capitalize on that sound for the next decade.
Yep.
Essentially making their career. Didn't need the part-time jobs anymore. They were pros after that. I understand that they didn't pull out all the stops when it came to technical, being impressive technically as musicians and really challenging songwriters. But they made their whole career essentially on this album. They had the people were talking about them and praising them for Clarity and what is it? Static Prevails before that. But this album set them up for the rest of their career. I can't hate on it that much because people can clap along and woo woo and sing most of the vowel sounded choruses with ease forever after this.
Yep.
It's an awesome accomplishment, and I will never shit on them for that or take anything away from that. But it is simple, and anyone can do it. Which is also kind of wasn't that the whole thing with punk rock? Everyone should be able to do it.
It's true. I often talk about Muse, and I like how I like their first record because it's more accessible. It makes them feel like a band. It's this is something we could play as people.
Yeah.
And the rest of Muse's catalog gets so produced that you're this is untouchable.
Yeah.
I hear you. But I also want the audience to note how mad he's getting. Because this is the whole point of this segment is to make you mad.
Will not have the besmirching of Gimmie Eat World go without a little pushback.
All right, so these next two are really the same, but they're just different wording.
Okay.
So we'll start with the first one. Gimmie Sleep World would be a better band name after hearing some of the back half of this record. Honk Shoe. What a snoozer. Couple of those tracks are
I mean,
whew, closer, wow.
I definitely had My Sundown on a playlist in college that I would play when I was about to take a nap.
Yeah.
It's not a super exciting song, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a great album closer. It's not as good as Goodbye Sky Harbor off of Clarity. That's an incredible 16-minute epic. My Sundown is definitely safer and just way more chill with fewer twists and turns. But an extremely digestible, easy album closer that just takes you out into nothing and ends the album in an extremely peaceful place.
The saltine crackers of the rock
absolutely
world.
not.
The saltine of closers.
But the album's trajectory, it shoots you off with Bleed American, keeps you riding high through Sweetness, and then gradually dips a little bit If you don't, and then picks back up a little bit on Get It Faster, and then just slowly brings you back down the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And like as soon as My Sundown ends, like you push that bar up, you get off the ride, you like, hell yeah, man, that was a great time. I loved that. It's excellent. Next question.
All right, fine.
Undefeated.
Oh yeah, undefeated. All right, the next one again is similar, a similar take, but just different flavor. Considering Gimmie is allegedly eating the world, you'd think he'd eat some spices and make something less bland as a result.
Terrible. Take a lap. Horrific puns. 0 out of 10.
I'm at my creative peak.
If that's the case, you could hop right in and play with Gimmie World then on this record, I think.
Oh, so you admit it?
No
so
challenging.
You admit it. It's bland.
No highbrow.
You admit it? It's bland.
No.
Words are tough for.
It is
for Gimmie.
not. It is simple words said simply. It's like a key equation for success.
You know what else has simple words that people really love?
Don't say it. Don't say it. I know you're going to say it.
Wheels on the bus.
That wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Okay, that's fair. Look, man, that song endures too. Everyone knows that song.
I guess. Yeah. All right. Yeah, if you don't like puns, you're not going to like this next one.
Jesus.
Sweetness is a bold song to come up with for a guy named Adkins.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because of the Adkins
The
diet.
Jim Adkins diet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jim Adkins diet.
You can't have sweets.
This album was really lacking carbs.
This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come here.
Look how mad he is. I'm winning.
Can't believe I canceled plans for this. I had things to do.
All right, the next one.
Brutal.
Yeah, I like to listen to Gimmie Eat World when I want to remember the simple times of being a white suburban child.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. As a former white suburban child, that's what I'm talking about. This was tailor-made for me.
Remember the good times. Pre-2008. Wow.
Yeah. Even the good times, like, you know, this album came out 2 months before 9/11.
Yeah.
The end of Innocence, man.
Truly.
Those
they had to
2
change
months.
the name of the album because
I know.
Bleed American was too raw.
Weak. They changed it back though.
I mean, I think they had a better lead than System of a Down because System of a Down came out with Toxicity like 3 days before 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah. That was such a weird, like, so many bands had to change album titles and music videos and everything. Like, come on.
Well, we're only saying that because we're 20 years out from 9/11. It was a national tragedy at the time. Max, please be nicer to people. People's family members died.
Look,
and
man,
you're out here saying bands are being weak. Unbelievable.
I'm worried we went too soft on Taylor, so I want to make sure we get canceled by the end of this thing. So trolling on Taylor Swift and talking about 9/11, that should do it.
All right, let's wrap up being mean to you. I think it's easy for a band like this to be the inspiration for so many other bands when their music doesn't quite push as far as the others were brave enough to take it.
How dare you?
Because everyone, like, there's so many bands that draw inspiration from Gimmie Eat World, and it's like, of course you did, because they ran half the distance.
But also, this is one album in an incredibly consistent discography.
Sure.
Like, for sure, this is one of the least challenging, but it slayed on tour, and you know that.
You know what else?
Like, it filled up, though. It helped fill those arenas.
You know what else is consistent, hot, and ready? Little Caesars.
No.
It is available.
Absolutely not.
It is hot, and it is ready. It is Little Caesars, and it's always a banger at a party, much like an arena.
Also not true.
People love it.
If you show up with Little Caesars at this party, you're being asked to leave. This is a Domino's party. We used to accept Papa John's until that dude went crazy.
He did go crazy.
Now it's just Domino's. What do kids eat for pizza these days?
I don't know. I'm from Cincinnati, and we have La Rosa's.
Oh, yeah. That's legit. Either way, it's solid pizza.
And I
with
I would
multiple
argue-
locations that you can access with ease, sure.
I would
But
argue.
solid pizza.
I'd argue that you're describing Little Caesars. Like in their marketing, they're
Not.
like, it is solid.
No. They probably would.
In their marketing, like
Our
look, guys,
pizza is not much, but it is solid.
it is pizza.
It's no longer soaking through the bottom of the box.
Yeah, we fixed up our crusts.
Yeah, it's solid. It is a solid mass now.
Is pizza.
Yeah. Little Caesars. It is pizza.
Yeah. It is pizza.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, just Gimmie Eat World. It is a band.
It is
Acceptable.
emo. Is it? It's not even that emo. I don't know, man. It's just like, it's just good rock music with emo tendencies,
Yep.
emo inclinations from time to time.
That's fair. He talked about his feelings, which is something they don't really do.
Yeah.
In a way that wasn't just anger.
Yeah.
And that's what
And
made them
in a way
emo.
that wasn't like immediately shaming whatever
Right.
girl it was he was talking about in the song.
That's also fair.
Or like he wasn't following her or hiding in her closet or anything.
You whore.
It was just like,
Yeah.
you're not into me. That hurts. I'm going to go
Yeah.
drive late at night and figure this out.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to follow you and pop your tires and force you to rely on me until you fall back in love with me and manipulate you indefinitely.
Yeah. Pete Wentz style.
Yeah.
I always think of I can't remember the song title right now, but like off of From Under the Cork Tree, there's like this where the chorus is like, so douse yourself in shit perfume.
Oh, yeah.
You can't hide it.
Yeah.
You can't cover it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You whore.
Yeah. Like most of that record now is like, oh, I want to play this song. But you just have to understand, like they recorded this at a different time.
It was a very different
like, yeah,
time.
it was a different time. But
It was okay to
he was
hate one.
going through stuff, but like, oh man, this chorus just really hits.
It's so good. Not as hard as he hit her, but
Ooh.
it really is.
Yes. Sorry, Ashley Simpson.
This will be tough. I'm already thinking about shelving this episode.
It started off decently, and they
Yeah.
just got into the muck of the emo
The emo
underbelly,
scene,
and
yeah.
it's not good.
All right, well, that finishes up our record scratch game of Mad Max.
That wasn't too bad.
Dude, at one point you were pretty red.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it
Which-
definitely.
Brings me fucking joy. It brings me joy to make you angry.
A few of those setups definitely made me a little furiosa. See what I did there?
There it is.
Yeah, but at the end, yeah, it was not too bad. I don't have a problem. I'm happy to stand Gimmie World all day.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the other things I wrote down, like all 4 original members for 30 plus years. Name another pop punk band that has original members that have never left and come back, have
Right.
never had a hiatus, consistently 30 plus years, have always made records, even with like a few thematic and aesthetic divergences, always kind of have that core sound at the forefront of the album. So it's never like, it never really feels like they went out on a ledge, which your mileage may vary whether or not you enjoy that kind of focus in a sound, but like always dependable, always reliable songwriting, reliable song construction, arrangements. It's just, I think Gimmie World deserves so much more respect than they get.
I think I'm going to intercut my next joke that I just thought of. I just thought of it. I'm going to intercut a video right here, and it's going to be Jerry from Rick and Morty when he turns on the radio.
Yeah.
He turns it on. It's going to be playing The Middle by Gimmie Eat World. And he's going to say, human music.
I like it.
I like it. Yeah, that's Gimmie Eat World is Jerry's human music.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Well, I bet you could train an AI on Gimmie Eat World.
Yeah, but you couldn't. AI couldn't get the. I don't know, the longevity. Again, like Gimmie World's still around,
Yeah.
and they're still performing at a high caliber level.
And there are
like
dozens of fans.
There are dozens of us. Yeah.
There are dozens of them still singing their praises.
But like I told you about this, like a couple of years ago, seeing them and Taking Back Sunday, and how Gimmie World sounded light years ahead of Taking Back Sunday,
Right.
from a live standpoint.
Oh,
Just
for sure.
because I imagine they have taken better care of themselves over the years, but like still sound great, still. Original band members still making original music, not just like coasting on the big albums from 10, 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. They're a testament to like really a working man's. They are a working man's pop punk emo band. Like
Blue collar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blue collar emo.
Yeah, yeah. Phoenix or Tucson, wherever they're from. Mesa, yeah. Arizona, blue collar. Just hardworking.
It just takes some time.
It just takes some time, man. You're just in the middle of the ride. Everything's going to be just fine.
It'll be all right.
Everything's going to be just fine.
All right.
Hey.
So, on to On a Spit.
All right.
These are the lowlights of the record.
Yeah.
All of mine, once again, are songs instead of themes or anything like that.
Okay.
So, I'll start with the first one. Your House is... We've already mentioned it. It's just slow, and it comes right in the middle of some heat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of those ones, like, when I was a kid and I first heard it, it was skipping every time.
Yeah, that's a skip.
But for better or worse, I would argue, like, those skippers from the very beginning, Your House and If You Don't, like, songs that didn't necessarily fit, like, the teenage energy vibe that the bangers on the album have. Like, they've got, like, this cool kind of, like, new wave indie thing about them now that I think they are more digestible now, or, like, more digestible for an ear that's not looking exclusively for that pop punk sound.
Yeah.
Which is what my ear was looking for at the time.
Mine still is. I'm still a child who just wants banger after banger.
Yeah.
Even like on my famously loved record this year of Why Would I Watch by Hot Mulligan. I think I've mentioned it almost every episode of the show this
you
year.
have. We're exhausted.
I skip Betty on that song, which is the only song on it that's not like a ripper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all rippers all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like Tom from Parks and Rec, where he's like, he makes his playlist like they're all bangers all the time. I don't want any of this soft shit.
Yeah. And like they have better kind of like mid-tempo acoustic driven songs, but I don't know, again, like coming back to arrangements, like they're interesting. They've got electronic elements, they've got piano, they've got cool delays and modulation stuff happening. Like they're not bad songs. They're just not as good as the bangers on the album.
Right.
And so they get skipped over.
They're
but
super
like
weak.
guaranteed, if you're on a multi-hour road trip and you put on Bleed American, you're gonna listen to them now. And you won't hate it. When you drive home and you put this album on, you won't skip them. You won't. You'll listen. And you'll like it. You'll like it.
All right. So what's your first low light?
So I don't know if I made this clear enough yet, but like I just can't shit on Gimmie World. Other than like they never really broke out of a sound, and this album kind of solidified, not exclusively, because like they'd still dip back into more of the atmospheric indie sprawling sound on later albums, and like they get into like kind of like indie blues and stuff. Like they'd still deviate from the core sound, but this kind of like solidified that sound.
Yeah.
Which if you're a fan of, like, this is an exciting time, but it's also like they didn't really move away from the sound. So like the one criticism would be is they found like something that really worked for them and they never really let it go, which I understand. There's and there's the thing is like there are other bands that found a sound and let it go and didn't go back to it.
Oh yeah,
and it's heartbreaking.
It's garbage.
Like you listen to Deaf Heaven?
No.
Man, the original like black metal shoegaze sound that like they latched onto for the first couple of albums, incredible. Love it so much. And then like the last 2 records where they started getting away from it, just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, if nothing else, I know that I know I'm supposed to be criticizing this record and Gimmie World, but at least they found a sound that they knew worked for them, that people responded to, and they're like, we're just gonna take this with us.
Yeah,
we're not gonna get too far away from this.
And that's fair, and like I totally get that, because like to mention a band maybe people my age know, Sum 41 kind of like.
How did you
deviated.
people my age? Sum 41 is an older band than Deaf Heaven.
No.
Like by decades.
No.
Yes.
Fine, a more mainstream band then.
Mainstream 10 years ago?
Everybody loves All Killer No Filler.
Yeah, we did.
Everybody
20
loved
years
it.
ago.
Yeah. And then they deviated from it and never went back.
Yeah, that's true.
Then he married Avril Lavigne.
I know, and it all went to shit after that. He married her clone because she died.
Oh, okay. She died
15
a long
years
time
ago. Yeah.
Well,
The Nickelback guy killed her.
I'm surprised it wasn't Dave Coulier because
Probably, yeah.
he had a thing for singing women,
It could have been him, actually.
Canadians,
Yeah,
What are you going to do?
nothing.
But my second low light here is Cautioners.
Again, this is another sleeper that like didn't fit the vibe. But you go back, it's a good song.
No.
Yeah, it's got cool stuff happening with like that piano and like delayed guitar stuff.
Yeah, but like my opinion is objectively correct.
Here's the thing: if you weren't such a snob, you would find yourself more readily able to enjoy the things that objectively suck. I'm not going to say like this song though, because Cautioners is actually, that song has gotten better with time.
Yeah, maybe I just haven't spent enough time with it. That's
That
fair.
was an initial like low buy that is since appreciated in such a way that it's going to be
Not everything's
it's
a
going to
stock
be something.
market.
It's going to be its value has only gone up over time.
I mean, I guess like maybe I bought in too late.
You did.
And so the returns aren't the same for me. So.
Yeah, but you give it time. When you're driving home and you're listening to this record,
You sound like-
won't skip Cautioners.
You sound like me when a bit doesn't work. Recently I've started
Yeah.
saying you'll get that one on the drive home.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get this one on the drive home.
I'm
Just
not
wait.
going to get it on the drive
You
home.
will.
And do you have any more, or are you done shitting on?
Yeah. So this is like purely satirical and just I went, like I told you, I went back and reread the initial Pitchfork review and like some of the other reviews, and like the only thing I can say is like how audacious it was to put a 20-second guitar solo in a pop song in 2001. Like no one's doing that.
That's funny.
The hell's the matter with
Yeah.
you?
Pop music's changed so much since then.
Yeah.
Like imagine showing that Pitchfork reviewer from 2001, like Travis Scott, like going back in time and, and showing him Travis Scott and be like, hey, this is going to be crazily popular.
Yeah, and his head just explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't have like other than they like kept on with like the guitar theatrics a little bit through this album, which like guitar in the early 2000s was just like detuned mush.
Yeah.
And like this was like sprightly and like trebly and like exciting and poppy with guitar solos is like just so uncool.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was sweet, but I know a bunch of the dorks at the time thought it was uncool.
It's uncool, man.
Yeah.
You can't put a ripping solo into the most bland song of all time.
Yeah, seriously. But you saw the music video for The Middle, right?
Yeah.
That was the other thing, like being 14 and seeing a party where you show up and take your clothes off and just like hang out in your underwear. Incredible.
Great time.
I that may have made such a mark on my psyche at the time. Maybe The Middle is not an incredible song, but I just associate it with being like 14 and seeing people going to parties in their underwear and be like, this is so fucking cool. Yeah.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I may not have been able to like separate those two things over the last couple decades because I still think it's cool as shit.
As we rapidly approach 40.
Yeah. It's still cool as shit.
All right, my last one was My Sundown, and we already kind of touched on the fact that that's kind of a bummer to end this record on.
But it's
The
like,
saltines of the
what do you want to end a record on?
rippers. I told you,
No,
I want all
you don't.
rippers.
You want something. unless by ripper you mean something that like starts strong and slowly fades out.
Yeah.
Like you don't want your strongest song at the end of the record.
It's fair. And like you're not wrong. Like the ends of albums recently that I've seen, like I complained about Pusha T's, like It's Almost Dry ends really terribly despite it being a great song. That song ends like ass.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Even like my favorite band Pup, Pine Point is not exactly a ripper off
No.
of like
But it's like the right song to end that record, I think.
Or like The City off of Morbid Stuff for them. Like same thing. It's just quiet down now. But like, you know what doesn't end on a low note? It's
Little Caesars.
It's Why Would I Watch by Hot Mulligan. That ends with John the Rock Cena. Can you smell whatever's cooking?
It's a low note content-wise.
Oh, content-wise. It's total low note.
Like, that's a brutal song.
Oh, it's so depressing. It rocks.
But here's the other thing that this I think this ties into is like, and it's kind of indicative of the times. Like, I think Gimmie World, as did Jim Adkins. I assume Jim's like he's the primary creative in that band. But like, he knew how to put an album together.
Sure.
Like, super strong start with Bleed American.
Oh, yeah.
And like, My Sundown is a great closer. Like, again, that whole roller coaster thing, it hits, it peaks, it slowly like takes you back to the station. There's not a whole lot of thought put in how like the flow of an album anymore.
It's fair.
Mostly because albums are a joke now. No one does that.
Right.
It's like, we have all these singles. We just throw them together and release it as an album.
Bang.
But there used to be like actual thought put into the craft and curation and order of an album. And from that standpoint, like, Bleed American hits all the notes. It's a really well arranged and curated collection of thematically similar and interwoven pieces that work exceptionally well together. Not super challenging, but it all works together. Like, and that's not really a thing anymore. And other bands did it. Other bands have done it well. It's another thing, like, not so much anymore, but like Weezer, Blue, Only in Dreams, incredible.
Yeah.
That is the closer, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Incredible closing song.
It's good.
Like, having that knowledge of how to put a proper album together is meaningful, or at least it was meaningful.
Yeah, and like that is like a big part of the reason why I started the Full Spin Club, is to like get back into the art of the album. So like you bring up a solid point. I can't disagree. So I won't. Instead, what I'll do is tell you what I was thinking throughout that entire rant, which was, Jesus Christ, get a room. Get a room, dude.
Got a room with you to do this stupid thing.
This public display of affection is frankly disgusting.
I mean, again, there are worse things to be like this excited about, this passionate about. It could be so much worse.
Yeah, it could. But all right. Considering that was supposed to be the section in which we shit on the record, and you ended it by absolutely going down on it in front of everybody. Let's move on to our final section here. It is called On a Turntable, which is where I sent you these questions ahead of time. And we'll get to some deeper topics revolving a little bit more around you than around me, because I don't actually write or make music. I just comment on it.
Yeah.
So the first question here is, given the fact that I was 7 when this album came out, I was behind in getting into them. Since you were more age appropriate for this record when it released, which is something you've already said, tell me about the headspace you were in during those days and why this record resonated with you so much. And then what are the specific elements that inspired you or kept you coming back? So I think you've kind of already talked about this a little bit. So like maybe like if you have some specific elements in mind that kept you coming back, what was it?
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing that probably helps with my connection to this album and to this band is growing up in a conservative Christian household.
Sure.
Like, I didn't have any older siblings. So I didn't really have like a channel for people to give music recommendations. The the internet wasn't yet what it is today. Like the recommendations weren't everywhere. Spotify
Right.
wasn't a thing. So like you're pretty much dependent on like MTV2 was like the cool thing at the time. And Gimmie World was all over MTV2.
Mm-hmm.
But also like I couldn't get any records with parental advisory on them. Which I'm pretty sure this album does not have, or if it did, I got like a censored version.
Yeah. I don't think it did.
Yeah.
But that was actually something that when you brought up bringing like living in a conservative Christian household, I was like, oh, this is the perfect album to get away with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is
to,
also
bring
why
home,
like,
and they're like, this is good messaging, but
Yeah.
you're like, Andy's a little sad.
for sure. Which again, I think comes back to why Gimmie World deserves more respect, because I think they were kind of a gateway band
Sure.
for a lot of people that may have been in similar situations, or at least folks that didn't have kids at the time who didn't have the ability to like get into some of the more aggressive, more raw political whatever stuff. Gimmie World was like a very accessible way to kind of get into punk and pop and emo in a way that was not going to set off the alarms with conservative Christian parents, which isn't nothing.
Yeah.
Like it sounds kind of silly because like we've been spending this whole time talking about how safe Gimmie World is. But if you listen to Gimmie World and you like look them up online and you go see who they're on tour with, and you know you get into Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, or you know any of these other classic emo pop punk bands of the time. And like that takes you into more interesting, more challenging bands and genres. That's worthwhile. And I think Gimmie World played that role for a lot of kids in my situation and in similar situations. And that's important too. Even if you're not necessarily the band that like becomes the GOAT in the listener's ultimum, you know, catalog of bands that you listen to and artists that you love over the years, if you're the band that leads to that GOAT band or that GOAT artist, that's still cool and that's still meaningful.
And that is like a much smoother transition like into that world than other bands. Like, and I even mean that specifically to like your family life, because like I remember the whirlwind that went around the album that was my gateway into like pop punk and that sort of like music was American Idiot by Green Day.
Oh yeah.
And like the kerfuffle that went on in my house because of that album. Yeah. And like it wasn't even like started by my parents. My parents didn't really care at the time. It was a parent of a friend who like lost their mind about it, and then like my parents heard from them, and then we had to hear about it, and they're like, "Are you taking things seriously in this album?" And I'm like, "No. Yeah. I'm in the 5th grade. Yeah. It just sounds cool." Yeah.
Fortunately, I think I could drive like right about by the time that album came out, so I could go out and get it myself without having to go through my parents. But yeah, for sure. Like, and I remember, you know, again, the household that I grew up in, like Fox News was on all the time, and like I remember that album being a topic of discussion with the Talking Heads, talking about like how disrespectful and so like in that same Gimmie World was never gonna trigger the Talking Heads at Fox News. No. So again, like, are they safe and unchallenging? Yes. But do they serve as a means to broaden one's musical horizons into like a whole collection of very interesting and like important bands and albums that came around the same time and or after? Or before? Like maybe you go back and you check out the catalog and you know investigate other bands that have similar themed or sounding albums. Like for sure they do, and that's not nothing. That's a meaningful place for a band to occupy that allows that jumping off point into other stuff.
And they are like a highly respected band. Like, cause like I know I've been sitting here absolutely ripping on them just for the sake of making you uncomfortable and unhappy, which brings me joy. But they are like highly respected. Like again, I've already mentioned Hot Mulligan, but like they covered Bleed American. So like they are obviously a heavy influence to like all kinds of generations, and they're probably for the same reason you're talking about right now, which is like they were their gateway drug. Right? They got them in. Their parents were cool with it. And then like because of the supporting acts, like you just got into the scene that way.
Yeah.
Which is all fine and dandy and everything. But I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's like being what's the most respected white bread in the bread aisle? That's how I feel about Gimmie Eat World.
Man, Gimmie Eat World absolutely is that bunny bread.
It's an artisanal sourdough.
An artisanal sourdough available at all Walmarts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fresh baked, that comes out of the bakery of any big box store.
Right.
That's Gimmie Eat World.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that leads us into a good second question here of, in your opinion, why do you think this band is revered so much? We probably covered it already, but from an outside perspective, they seem, no pun intended, very middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yet, despite that initial take from your average layman, me, they are highly respected by music nerds like yourself. Why do you think that is? What's the secret sauce that gives them more than what they seem at a glance?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to end up reiterating some things that I already said, but like providing a relatively basic formula for cool, interesting, catchy songs that weren't so advanced that you couldn't at least figure out part of them. Like, growing up an aspiring musician and like particularly wanting to play guitar in a rock or punk band, like Gimmie Eat World was had cool enough parts and catchy enough songs, but not so far advanced that it felt out of reach. So like they embodied that kind of that punk ethos of like, we're doing this and you can do this too. And also like they weren't a California band. They weren't a New York band. They didn't necessarily exude that kind of like, we're so much cooler than everyone else, or we're so much more goth, or we're so much, they weren't part of some particular scene's lineage necessarily. Which growing up in the Midwest, I mean, the Midwest emo scene is storied as well, but like, Midwest emo for me, like, was like American football, which wasn't something I got into until college.
Right.
So it was a little bit too dense and too big for my little high school, middle school brain to comprehend. But like, I got Gimmie Eat World. Yeah. And they provided a kind of a blueprint for like finding. Again, tying back to the fact that it's all original members, like finding good friends to play music with, writing good basic songs, and just writing that for as long as you can, like seemed really cool. Yeah. So Gimmie Eat World's always been that for me.
I guess it's fair that their accessibility is like kind of this special sauce.
Yeah.
Like the pure accessibility of it. And like, I think of like, cause like there are like really simple, like percussionists, if you want to be nice, but like drum players, like I think of Meg White, right? Like, like people rip on Meg White for being really basic.
Those people suck, like, by the way.
Yeah, and like in the same way that I'm ripping on Gimmie Eat World for being like, just basic as hell. But there is value in that basicness. Like Jack White will step up to bat for Meg. Yeah. Every time, because like she's like a human metronome. He's like, you don't understand how hard it is to be perfect at something simple. And I think that's like a valid argument for Gimmie Eat World. Yeah. Like, is that like, you don't understand how valuable it is to be this good at something that is this basic. Like, it's just like kind of like perfecting the first rung. For right? Sure. So many people try to speed run things and like get better, faster, stronger, that kind of thing. But like Gimmie Eat World like clearly took their time and didn't like deviate, which is like my main critique. But like they got good at it. Yeah. And they got very good at it. Yeah. And then they also like had a very gates open, come on in kind of mentality around it. Yeah. Which is like all good.
Yeah. Like there was no homework required to get into Gimmie Eat World. Right. You didn't need to know anyone's previous bands, or you didn't need to know the scene that they came from. Like they were all applicants are admitted. Yeah. And also you hit on the good point of like, simple doesn't mean easy. Like they wrote simple songs, but writing a simple song with chords everyone's heard before in a way that's still memorable, I think is harder than a lot of bands today. Musicianship is seemingly at an all-time high, if not as high as it's been since like the classical era with Mozart and Beethoven and all these insane pieces.
Yeah.
Like the Instagram guitar players, drummers, bass players, keyboardists, etc. are insane. Some of them might be faking it, but many of them are insane.
Right.
And there's a lot of bands that can play incredible stuff you've never heard before, but that doesn't mean it's good music.
Right. It's not like,
and that doesn't mean simple stuff is inherently good either. But if you can take a simple, tried and true formula and refurbish it in a way that becomes memorable for a generation, that like when they hear those chords, they think of this song as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
That's not nothing, I don't think.
Yeah. Like I liken it to my gateway to comedy was Superbad.
Yeah.
And it was like the most accessible high school comedy ever.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly, I think I was like in the 7th or 8th grade when I saw that movie for the first time. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
It was like the whole reason I even thought about trying stand up or anything like that. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I imagine Gimmie Eat World has a very similar vibe.
For sure.
Where it's like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah. Superbad focused on two characters that are not cool.
Yeah.
Like cannot get dates to save their lives. And it's just like a series of misfortunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like exactly, you watch that movie and you're like,
It's just a buddy
these are
comedy.
me and my friends.
Yeah.
Like these aren't supermodels. These aren't Marvel actors.
No.
Like these are normal people in normal situations for the most part. There's a few, but like it feels approachable. It feels familiar. It feels like something that you've done or that you could do.
Yeah.
And that's also the similar sentiment, a similar experience listening to or seeing Gimmie Eat World.
Right.
Like these aren't crazy rock stars. These aren't musicians that are so talented you could never in a million years play what they play.
Right.
But the individual pieces come together in such a way that's pleasing and meaningful enough that you see it and you're like, that could be me and my friends. We could put a band together like this. We could write songs like this. And that I think that part of that is if you do it, start a band and you try and make songs like that, you kind of realize writing super catchy, simple songs is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
But like, at least it sends that message of you could do this too. And you don't need to be from a coast. You don't need to be from a certain cool scene. You don't need to have a certain background. You can just be 4 bros from Arizona.
It's like good stand-up where like good stand-up makes people think that it's so easy they can do it. And then as soon as they try, it's absolute trash. To the point where I've started to get annoyed with good stand-up because like you are inviting so many terrible people to do this. Yeah. Like, please stop. Yeah. Like, you're killing us, man. Like they make it look so simple, but it just isn't. Yeah. Okay. That's probably the secret sauce is that the beauty of simplicity. Yeah. After I've, sat here and shit on it for like an hour.
That's all right. I was always going to just wait you out. I knew I had the endurance to endure whatever BS you were going to come with, and I'd wear you down eventually.
I did come with a lot of BS today.
Yeah, I know.
So for our last question of the show here, similar to Weezer, Gimmie Eat World is often cited as inspiration for a lot of the mall pop punk that I grew up and loved. Do you feel like they were any inspiration for you and your own style of music specifically, and how so?
Oh yeah, like Get It Faster is a good example of kind of like interweaving guitar parts in a simpler kind of pop punk aesthetic. When I was in a high school band, when I was in even still today, like I still think about Gimmie Eat World 2 guitar arrangements. Cause like what I was saying a minute ago, like you can get insane with 2 guitars. You can get insane with 3 guitars. You can get all periphery with it or animals as leaders, what have you. But like creating simple complementary parts that sound good and kind of cover up space that another part is leaving open, like thoughtful parts. They've always been able to do that in a similar way that Rivers and Brian and Weezer are able to do that. Like Weezer has cool, interesting, interwoven, complementary guitar parts. And Gimmie Eat World has that too. And definitely songs that I've written in the past, a project that I'm working on with a friend, hopefully for later this year, like in a indie punk rock kind of way. There's definitely space in the back of my head that's like, what would Gimmie World do?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just something like, even from playing these songs over the years, you're driven to certain inclinations that you learn from listening to these records and playing along with them, that like it's catchy enough and it hit at a meaningful enough time that it's always part of like the musical DNA. And it's stuff that, you know, perhaps you try and steer away from or try and pursue new things, and that's all well and good. But like, if I'm just sitting strumming a guitar, and I put a guitar in drop D, like, I'm gonna play the middle. I'm at least gonna palm mute the chords at one point. Maybe I'll throw in the first fast lick of the solo, you know, just if I'm at Guitar Center or something. But yeah, like that stuff. If you hear it at the right time as someone aspiring to be a rock musician, like that stuff kind of gets put into your musical motherboard and never really leaves.
Yeah.
It's always there in the background.
Yeah, I can't, you know, fully empathize because I don't write music myself. The only thing that I write is like either these episodes of the show or my own stand-up. And I try to think of like the things that are in the back of my mind humor-wise that are like integral to my sense of humor. Yeah. And I think recently, like, It's Always Sunny has like absolutely become like an integral part of like my joke writing style, or like just my view on the world, which ultimately affects my joke writing style. Or same with like, again, right, referencing Superbad, is like Jonah Hill's character in that movie is like kind of the straight man, but in his own world. Like, like he's like, in his mind, he's the one that makes sense. And like, that's like where a lot of my humor comes from as well, is like kind of like reacting to outrageous things that are probably pretty minor, but like I deem them outrageous from my point of view. So yeah, so you're saying they're just in there in your motherboard and you never really can leave Gimmie, can you?
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, they got me early on. I can't fully escape, like when I engage the catchier, inclinations in my songwriting brain, like there's always a little bit of Gimmie World influence that tries to poke through in some way or another. Whether or not I indulge and follow that impulse, maybe I do, maybe I don't, but like, yeah, it's in there.
All right, that's fair. Like, I guess they're okay. I don't know. You couldn't come up with a cooler idol.
It's also like, I mean, I don't know that they're my idol, but I also, of all the bands to hate, Gimmie World is not one.
Right, because
there are much more deserving bands.
Like, it's impossible because they're just so middle of the road that you can't possibly hate them.
Fair enough. If you want to say they're not like persuasive enough one way or the other to really hold any disdain or dislike for, that's okay. Yeah. But they're also like consistently consistent enough that they're a mile marker on the road of the what the fuck was I gonna say with that? Anyway, they're just part of the makeup of that like early emo pop punk.
They're integral to the scene.
For sure.
They are. They're integral to the scene.
Yeah.
Kind of like Little Caesars is integral to the pizza market.
Unreal, dude.
The Little Caesars index is a lot like the Big Mac index in that way, where like you can tell how a certain area is doing based on how Little Caesars doing.
It's absolutely not true. That's not true, and they deserve better. And Little Caesars deserves worse.
And with that, pizza.
This episode brought to you by Little Caesars. This episode
brought to you by not Little Caesars, because they don't sponsor me, and I'm sure I'd get in some kind of trouble if one of my 39 listeners reported me to the pizza conglomerate. Wow.
It's going to be me.
Unreal.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you made it this far in the episode, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you could like, comment, subscribe, and do all those things. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. That would be pretty cool. Max, do you have anything that you want to promote while you're on the show? You got...
Gosh,
my
I
Ravenous
got
fans?
I got a book dropping. I got a movie dropping. Come to my restaurant. No, I got nothing, man.
Got nothing. Well,
Thanks
you
for
used to be in
tuning in.
bands.
I used to be in bands. Yeah, I'll be in bands again at some point.
Yeah.
Let's do a follow up when I'm in bands again. And
Okay, and we can actually plug things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and
Yeah, man.
I finally gave you your time to shine. I hope you
sure
like it.
did. I love this.
And
I'm so glad you came to me before Fred. I know that only matters to one listener named Fred.
who made it this far for sure.
He was listening for this exact shout out. So,
Well, Fred, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Don't live in the mountains. But all right, well, that's going to be it for our episode today. We will catch you in the next one. Peace out.